Welcome everybody to this special Zoom recording of a tasting of 3 expressions of Gruner Veltliner with the amazing winemaker Ralph Waldschutz of Weinhof Waldschutz. So Ralph, if you'd like to take us on to your first wine that you're tasting. As we see, we've got a lineup of 3 Gruner Veltliners here. We've got the Kamptal Gruner 2020, the Weinhof Wagram, and then a lovely ice wine. But before we get into the tasting, I just thought it might be helpful if Ralph talks a little bit about the kind of structure of the winery and the location.
Yes, so a very warm welcome also from my side. Hello to everybody. I'm Ralph Waldschutz, the winemaker in 6th generation. Since 1849, our winery was established. We are working in 2 areas based on the Wagram, but also with some vineyards in the Kamptal area. And the family owns the business, so it's just a very small, good running family business in our winery. And I will show you some different Gruner Veltliners grown on different soil types and in different regions, and this is the main difference between the varieties. Also the harvesting time is a little bit different, and I hope you enjoy the time with the tasting, and I hope you enjoy the wines.
Thank you, Ralph. Okay, so let's start off with our first one, and it's a Gruner Veltliner from the Kamptal. So whereabouts in the Kamptal are we talking about, Ralph?
So if you are looking on this map on the northeastern side, you will see Strassertal, and on the top of the Strassertal you will see the Elsan, and on the top of Elsan we have Obernholz. Obernholz is the village where my father was grown up, born and raised. And over there we have our Kamptal vineyards. These vineyards are the highest vineyards in the Kamptal Valley. That means we are growing wines on an altitude of above 420 meters over there, which is quite high. And I also bring some rocks with me, so you can have a look at the soil where the wines are grown. It's more or less a kind of gneiss with a lot of minerals inside. You can see the reddish color, and these minerals are going into the wines via the roots. That means the taste of the wine is built by the soil. And I also have a small sip of the Kamptal Gruner Veltliner vintage 2020, which is really delicious and delicate. 2020 was a little bit cooler than average, and we had a slightly more rain, which was perfect for this stylistic of wine, because the acidity grow really good and the body is very well balanced. I think it's really nice with a lovely short finish, not too opulent and not too big. Very well balanced acidity and quite herbal notes with hints of green apple and a little bit of lime. I really like this kind of wine.
I think there's a lovely level of complexity here, Ralph, and I love that combination of the ripeness of the fruit, the minerality from that gneiss, and it's great to be able to see the rocks there, and then that lovely acidity coming from that, you know, super high altitude. I think it's probably one of the highest altitude sites in the Kamptal, isn't it, at Obernholz?
Yeah. Obernholz is the highest village in the Kamptal, and through the millions of years, when the rain washed down the good soil, that's why we have the highest population of rocks in our soil, because the rain washed the good soil down to the bottom of the mountainside. So we are growing our wines nearly on 100% of primary rock.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's I'm just putting the next slide up now, just to give people a bit of extra kind of technical information. That's a summary of the soil type here. I also think this is a fantastic food-friendly wine. So very, very versatile, a whole range of different dishes that it could go with. I mean, some of my favorites are things like the Scotch egg, which is a favored dish in England, you know, all kinds of things, smoked ham, grilled chicken, even Thai sort of food, and Mexican tacos.
Especially Thai and Asian cuisine.
Absolutely. I think the other thing that might be useful to show as well is just the kind of more detailed location, because Oberholz is quite a way away, isn't it, from it's like you said, it's just above Elsan, and it's almost kind of, it's in this kind of very unique position, really. And this is taken from the Riedenkarten from the Wines of Austria, so you can just kind of really sort of see what a special site this is.
Yeah, it's very special, and it's on the northeastern top of the Kamptal Valley, and it's in the middle of the Mannhardsberg Massif, and the Mannhardsberg is a kind of smallish mountain with a lot of wooden sides also, and we have the positive influences from the northern winds which are coming down from the Czech Republic. So more north than Oberholz you will find the Czech Republic, and yeah, so this is very positive.
Thanks, Ralph. So whilst we get set up for the second wine, which is another Gruner Veltliner, it's our second one, but a very, very different style. Just tell us a little bit of from the 6th generation of the Waldschutz family. Is that correct?
What was that?
You're from the 6th generation.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the 6th generation making wine. So my father Anton, he was the 5th generation. He grew the business up in the direction of export, and when I took over, I was able to grow the export business. And the second wine we will taste is our most important wine on the winery. So it's in the middle of the pyramid. It's a village wine. If you compare to the German system, Ortswein, or compared to the French system, village wine. And very important for this wine is the kind of soil. I bring it with me in a bottle. It's called Löss. And this Löss is very special because it's a kind of sandy soil, but it's not sand at all. It's very smooth. It's very good in saving water and nutrients, and also very good in saving sunlight. This means the whole Wagram is a kind of hilly slopes, which is in a southern faced direction, and out of this southern faced hilly slopes, the sun energy which was saved during the day will be given back during the night. That means it's a little bit warmer in the Wagram Valley compared to the Kamptal, and the wines will grow a little bit thicker and more delicious. And here on the map we will see a kind of vineyard site. So right now you are in the Premier Cru Bruntal, and on the right side of the Premier Cru Bruntal you will see the Premier Cru Scheiben. And the Kamptal and Wagram Gruner Veltliner from our winery is a blend out of 3 crus. So we have Premier Cru Bruntal, Premier Cru Scheiben, and Cru Hammergraben. And out of those 3 crus we make 1 village wine, and this one is very spectacular. Just have to take my second glass.
Yeah, of course.
Really lovely. So, as I've told you, the factors like soil and microclimate is a little bit different to the Kamptal. Also, the harvesting time is later than in the Kamptal. which means the grapes are a little bit more ripe. So wind will take a little bit of water out of the grapes. They are a little bit more brownish in the color, and the young wine will also stay longer on the lees, which makes it a little bit more rounder, and which has positive effects on the acidity sugar balance. Vintage 2020, really good, well matured nose.
I think the other thing with this wine as well, Ralph, I mean, there are so many different elements to the wine in terms of its body, its taste. And I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed is that almost amplification of the aromas. And I think you said this has some skin contact, doesn't it? Just a small amount from when it comes into the wine.
So from the Kamptal and Wagram, the grapes have had skin contact at least one night, because it brings a little bit more flavor to the wine. Yeah,
it's delicious. It's a very kind of rich and opulent style of Gruner Veltliner. And in terms of the other aspects of the winemaking, I mean, you can clearly taste the kind of the mouthfeel, the richness from the lees contact, which has had 10 months on the lees, but also there's a mixture of like stainless steel and a little bit of the larger oak barrels. But it's mainly steel, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mainly steel, because we want to save the original Austrian style of the wine. But of course, it's also quite interesting to have a look how the wine is developing in used oak. So what we'll do is we make 90% really traditional Austrian in stainless steel with a chilled fermentation, and 10% in used barrels to bring a little bit more freedom into the wine.
Okay. And just thinking a bit more about the kind of styles of food, I think, as I said, this is a very, very kind of rich and complex style of Gruner Veltliner, and I think that for me means that the food pairing possibilities are even wider. You know, you can have it with kind of rich dishes, you know, schnitzel and steak tartare, or teletonata. You could have it with maybe exotic and spicy curries. You could have it with kind of more, you know, like marmalade glazed hams, baked camemberts, harder cheeses. Like we love our roast chicken in the UK, and you could have it with roast chicken and a nice creamy mushroom sauce, or even with kind of sort of exotic seafood salads, you know, crab and prawns with mango and avocado with some lime. I mean, it's just got loads of like lovely characteristics on there. And I think before we go into talking a little bit about your sustainability initiative, and then finally onto the ice wine, it would be also just good, I think, to share with everybody the amazing kind of evolution of this wine. And something kind of unusual happened with the 2020 vintage, didn't it? You went to rack the wine off, and you weren't entirely happy. So nature took its course, but I'm going to let you tell the story.
Exactly, that was the main point of the story. So the positive thing of Corona was that we have learned that our wines will develop different with more lees aging, what means that once we wanted to rack the wine from the lees, it was not that good than we expected, because 2020 was a little bit cooler and had a little bit more rain. So the wine was a little bit not that creamy or not that well-bodied as we wanted to have it. So we took the decision to leave it longer on the lees, because due to Corona, we did not need to bottle it so early. And after 10 months on the lees, we tasted it each week, and we saw in our notes that the developing of the wine was great. So it developed month by month, and after 10 months, it was really perfect, matured and ready for bottling.
I I mean, that's incredible, because I guess normally commercially you wouldn't have the luxury of experimenting with an extra period of lease contact, but I think I would agree that that extra 5 months on the lease has brought some real kind of richness and weight to the body, and I have to say it's a lovely expression. We're going to move on now, just to put up a nice picture of some grasses and herbs growing between the vines, and I think this dovetails us kind of quite nicely onto the Sustainable Wine Austria certification, which you were granted this in 2019 or 2020, Ralph?
We started in 2018, and the first growing year 2019 was controlled and certificated. So since 2019 we have the certificate for Sustainable Austria. And Sustainable Austria is so much more than the biologic certification, because for me it's not just necessary to have a biological growing farm. I think everything around the winery is also very important. So we are looking that we are not using any wood which is not out of certificated production. We are watching that we are not using empty glass bottles where maybe some children work happened. We are also looking that we pay our employees with more than average money on the end of the month. So there are so many things more to look than just saying I am biological and I do not use any chemicals for spraying. So the whole production is nearly bioorganic, so we are not using any fertilizers anymore, and we are also not using any herbicides anymore, and also we are not using any hard spraying. So I think Sustainable Austria is just one step more into the
one step further.
Future,
And I really love that, because like you say, it's not just a badge, it actually means something. It's like, yes, we care about the environment, but we also care about the longevity of our and the sustainability of our operation, so that you can hand it on to the next generation, but also that the people are absolutely core to it. And if we don't look after the people, we won't have a sustainable business. So, you know, fair wages and job security and all these kind of things for your workers, I think is really important, and something increasingly that people are buying more into when they're looking at sourcing products. And I don't think wine is any different. So I think we've got a couple more pictures. So one of the traditional kind of tell me the story of this picture, Ralph. This was going back to the days before motor transport, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is one of the small vineyard houses which were built by the generations from my grandfather or one generation before, and they built it because when they were working during the day and it was really hot and they needed a little place to make lunch break, or even worse, if a very hard weather or rainy weather came during they have worked in the vineyards, they needed a dry place. And so there are a lot of small vineyard houses in our region.
Ah, cool. So I think it's time for us to go onto our last wine now, which is an ice wine from Gruner Veltliner, which I think is going to be really unusual for the audience. It's the first time I've actually had the chance to taste an ice wine made from Gruner Veltliner, and there's something I think really quite special about these wines. So if you can talk us a little bit through that, Ralph, that would be amazing.
So for ice wine, the grapes has to be 100% fully frozen by nature. So we are not allowed to put it into a freezer or a fridge or anything like this. And the frozen grapes will be controlled by a government guy. So in case that we want to produce ice wine, we have to phone the government 1 day in advance to say them it would be possible tomorrow in the morning to make ice wine. And with vintage 2019, I had to do this at least 19 times, which is a little bit funny, but also not really easy. So every one of you guys which are watching this explanations of the wine would be able to help me to control if the grapes are frozen or not, because it's very easy. You have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, long before the sun will rise, and then you will go out to the vineyard. You will have a look at the grapes, and then you try it just with your fingers. If you are able to press out the grape with your hands, you can go home and have another 2 hours of sleep. And if the grapes are fully frozen, you are not able to press them out with your hands. It's very easy to make a control. And after the time when they are really frozen, everything is really hectic and nervous. We have to call our employees, we have to call some friends that we can harvest it really fast and quick. And then it's typical traditional made in stainless steel. And the very interesting thing is, with freezing the water in the grapes, we are just pressing out the sugar and acidity, which means it's a fully fruity flavor of 100% Gruner Veltliner without botrytis, because for a lot of other styled sweet wines, you're using the botrytis for getting the sweetness, but here we have 100% fully healthy grapes which are just frozen. So it's a completely different style and characteristic than other sweet wines which are made out of botrytis grapes.
And Ralph, the other thing that strikes me about this wine as well is, as you said, it doesn't have that kind of botrytized element to it. So it's all from the concentration of the sugar through the freezing of the grapes. Yeah. But it also has fantastic balance. And I'm sure our kind of viewers will acknowledge this, that a lot of dessert wines can often be so sweet, they've got such high residual sugar, but they don't have enough acidity to balance that out. And for me, this is such a delight to drink it. You definitely want to have a second glass of this, whether you're having it with sweet or savory food, because it's got such lovely acidity. So how do you get such great acidity in the grapes?
That's mainly because we will start with the ice wine production 1 year before. So during the pruning, we have to think if we want to make an ice wine, because if we are making the pruning for Kamptal and Wagram, for example, we will not prune that much, because low yields per hectare will make good quality with a well-balanced palate and a very well-balanced mouth feeling. And if we want to produce an ice wine, we have to think about this 1 year in advance, because we have to prune a little bit more, that the average yields per hectare are higher, because with higher yields we have higher acidity and less sugar in the ripening period, and less sugar in the ripening period means more water in the grape, which means that they will freeze earlier, because it's not that high sugar graduation in the grapes.
Okay, so it's a long-term piece of planning and preparation to end up with this delicious product. And I guess there's always the chance that it might not be cold enough to freeze the grapes.
It was like this. So we had my father made the first vintage in the year 1998, and since 1998 we have had 2 vintages where we were not able to make ice wine. So one vintage was just not cold enough. Then we had to throw the grapes away in March, because after a period of 4 months, getting slightly frozen, getting warm again, getting slightly frozen, getting warm again, the grapes were just 100% mold in March. and you could not use this anymore for ice wine. And the second year we had really big troubles with birds, and all the birds have eaten all the grapes which was reserved for the ice wine. So, yeah.
Oh, that must be soul destroying to see that happen.
It is, but as wine grower, you are working with the nature, so you have to accept that the nature is not just for us humans. The nature is also here for all the animals which are living on the planet. So, if in a period of 35 years where my father has was the winemaker in the winery, and you have like 0.5% which was eaten by animals, that's okay. Even if you do not have an ice wine for one vintage, but this is how the circle of the nature is running if you are working with the nature.
Oh, that's a great story, Ralph. So just to sort of finish off then, with this particular wine, as we said, it's great with both sweet and savory dishes. You can enjoy it with a traditional, Apfel strudel, but also it's brilliant with blue cheeses. So whether you make a kind of a blue cheese tart from Roquefort or Cambozola or Affinois or one of those cheeses.
My favorite combination with blue cheese after a really nice dinner. It's very delicious, and I can tell you this is something you should do. Having a sip of ice wine with a good piece of very good strong cheese, also well matured, maybe a little bit chilled or not, a little bit room temperature, 20 minutes in the air, perfect.
Oh, thank you, Ralph. Well, listen, I'm going to leave everybody with a lovely view of the vineyards here. And just to say, a huge thanks for taking time to come and join us for this special Zoom for Novel Wines. It's been great to have you as the winemaker giving us a first-hand insight into the making of these three very different expressions of Gruner Veltliner, and I'm hoping that the audience will enjoy the wines as much as I have and talking to you today. So thank you, Ralph, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye. Have fun.